All right.
I can eat a pencil.
Can I get a box?
That's the Russian.
All right.
Skibble. We got some space.
We have to do something called solving radical equations, just like you would solve a regular equation for x. We're doing the same thing here. Okay, so our first goal when we're solving radicals is to get the radical by itself. So the first thing I tell everybody to do is box in this radical. Put a box around your square root.
Yeah, square.
Okay, I need to get rid of everything outside of that box first. What do I have outside of that box?
3.
A positive 3. So to get rid of it, I need to subtract it. So we subtract 3 from this side and subtract 3 from this side. When I subtract on this side, these cancel. So I'm left with the square root of x equals 10 minus 3 is 7. Good. Okay. Once your radical is by itself, your second step is to get rid of that radical. How do I get rid of the square root? You square it. Okay. So I square this side and square this side. So I'm left with x equals, because these two cancel. What's 7 squared?
49.
49.
49.
49.
49.
Okay. As always, you should go back and check and make sure it works. So we're going to take this answer and we're going to plug it into our original equation. So the square root of 49, because we found out x is 49, plus 3, that should equal 10.
49.
What's the square root of 49? 7. And what's 7 plus 3? 10. Does 10 equal 10?
Yes. 10
Yes.
10 because 10
So x equals 49 is correct.
Not being funny.
Okay.
What's that? What's that?
Go back up.
That's Snapchat notification.
Go back up.
Hey.
You're welcome.
iCarly. So,
Okay.
hey, they all
Open up the first flap there, friend.
Okay. Right.
Okay. Example number 2. Again, my goal is to get this radical by itself. So I box it in so I can see what is on the outside of it.
You gotta add 3.
No. This is where everybody messes up.
Can't you just bring it down?
You can't necessarily just bring it down. Think about this. If I had something like this.
You divide by 18.
If I had negative 3x equals negative 18, how do I get rid of this negative 3?
You move the x over. You divide it.
I divide it. Negative 3x is negative 3 times x. Negative 3 square roots of x is negative 3 times the square root of x. So to get rid of that negative 3, we must divide. So please be very careful whether you're adding, subtracting, or dividing. So we divide both sides by negative 3. So I get the square root of x equals positive 6. Good. Negative divided by a negative makes that a positive.
Slowly on road.
My radical's all by itself now, so now I need to get rid of it. By doing what? Square both sides. So x is going to equal 36. The last thing I have to do is I need to check it. Does that work? So we plug it into the original. Negative 3 square roots of 36 equals negative 18. If you don't know how to do this in your head, in your calculator, type in -3 square root of 36 and hit equals. See if that equals -18.
Don't nobody say nothing. Oh my God.
Bro,
I don't want to
Try it.
Bro. She's on the answer.
I need some new batteries.
Again,
Yes.
boy,
What?
calculator
What?
on you.
They calculated trash. Oh, they going to
But he is in his college.
What, John? Is it? What?
Joseph says no, it's the user.
Don't say that.
So, you said this comes out to be -18 equals -18, which means yes, that is your answer. Okay.
John, Wick.
One of the biggest things with square roots is you have to go back and check your answers. Sometimes they're not going to work. Okay, so you have to be careful. Example number 3. Again, box in this square root. This time I have 2 things on the outside I need to get rid of. What has to go first? The what, Caleb? The 5. The 5 has to go through, get rid of first. So if I have -5, I need to add it. So I get 2 square roots of x equals, what's -1 plus 5? 4.
Boom.
I wanted to say a lot about it, but
Okay, my radical's still not by itself. There's still a 2. How do I get rid of that 2, Stefan? Right.
What you say?
How do you get rid of the 2, bro?
The talking needs to stop. Welcome back. I understand spring break was last week, but we still have 43 days until the end of the year.
You gotta square
We
it.
have got to get this together.
Square it.
Not yet.
I gotta get rid of that 2 in front.
I got to get rid of that 2 in the front.
You moved it down.
Let's go like subtract it from.
You divide it.
You divide it.
That's 2.
you laying around. Stop thinking.
So you get the square root of x equals 2.
And that's
Now, Marlon, we square both sides. So x should equal 4.
Hey, this John easy. I might get in this one.
Okay. So the last thing we need to do is plug it in and make sure that it works.
Yeah.
2 square roots of 4 minus 5 should equal -1. Again, plug this side into your calculator and see if it equals -1. You already did it? Mr. Watkins says, I've already done it. It's good. So -1 equals -1, which means x equals 4 is a solution.
Oh, F you.
It's okay.
F is a bad word or a bad letter. You an idiot.
It's okay.
CJ, enough.
What? I said F.
I don't care.
It's okay.
It's inappropriate.
It's an alphabet.
Oh my, bro.
Yeah, it's an alphabet. D.
Okay, we have 2 more examples we're going to do in this foldable, and then we're going to finish up the rest tomorrow in here.
Okay.
Okay, what happens when I have square roots on both sides? Ooh, that looks ugly.
Yes. Yeah, you guys like
Okay, these are the easiest of them all. Okay,
It's really easy.
so I need to get rid of these square roots. How do I get rid of a square root again? Square it. So watch what happens. If I square both sides, I'm left with x plus 4 equals 2x minus 1. When you square both sides, all that does is it gets rid of your square roots and you're left with everything underneath.
Right, so all you got is
Now we solve it like a regular equation.
Come on, my turn.
What would you like to move first?
The 4.
the 4.
You want to move the 4. So if I move the 4, it becomes
2
a negative. So they cancel here. Your 4 goes with your 1 on the other side. So on the left, I'm left with x. On the right, I'm left with 2x
1.
minus 5.
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
Look.
Okay, I moved my numbers to the right, which means I need to move everything with my x's to the left. So that 2x has to go to the other side. So it becomes what?
A negative.
It becomes a negative.
What?
You can't go down from it. You can only go up.
I've been doing math all spring break. Shut up.
Okay, so x minus 2x leaves me with what? Negative 1x equals negative 5. Okay, x.
Divided by negative 1.
CJ, for the last time, stop talking.
You won't allow it? I hate to be a student, but we can get back to the session.
I have a negative x on the left. It is not x yet. I divide by negative 1 to make it a positive. So x actually equals positive 5. Again, the last thing you need to do is you need to check it. So we've got the square root, and that's going to be 5 plus 4 equals the square root, and that's 2 times 5 minus 1. So on the left, I get the square root. What's 5 plus 4? 9 equals the square root. What's 2 times 5?
10.
Minus 1 is 9. Does the square root of 9 equal the square root of 9?
Yeah.
Yes. X equals 5 is your answer. Okay. Last one. Example number 5. Again, I've got square root on both sides. So I need to get rid of them. We square both sides. So we get 3x plus 8 equals x plus 4. It doesn't matter. You can get rid of the 8 first, or you can move the x first.
Let's just keep it.
Move the x first. Okay. If we're moving the x first, do you want to move the 3 to the right or the x to the left?
The 3 to the right.
X to the left.
To the left.
Okay. If I move this x to the left, it becomes negative. So what's 3x minus x? 2x. Don't forget to bring down that 8. These cancel, and that equals 4. Okay. X's are on the left, which means all of my numbers need to move to the right. So to move my constant value of 8, I need to subtract. So we get 2x on the left because these cancel equals what's 4 minus 8? Negative 4. My last step then to isolate x is to divide by 2. So x equals negative 2.
Hey, Kyrie.
I've got 3 times negative 2 plus 8 on the left, and the square root of negative 2 plus 4 on the right. So what's 3 times negative 2?
Negative 6.
Negative 6 plus 8.
Negative 14.
Negative 6 plus 8 is 2. Okay, on this side, negative 2 plus 4, 2. Does the square root of 2 equal the square root of 2?
Yeah.
Yes. This is a solution. Okay, we're gonna do the last two tomorrow, so skip those for now and glue this in on page 86 in your notebook.
Now,
And then we're gonna do this one if you would like to trim the outside. On 86, yeah.
I don't even know who you are.
You said 86?
Yes.
What page? 86?
Yes, sir.
That's what I should have got.
What, some glue?
Yeah. No, dude.
It's okay. Jesus will fix it.
I'm about to throw this away.
Jesus will fix it.
My last time I went to church. The last time I went to church was.
Can I see your blue sticks? I see them.
I'm gonna stop going to
No, bro. I'm
2 months.
Yeah, do what you gotta do, bro.
Yeah, come on. Hey, you got that blue stick right behind you. It's behind you. All you gotta do is just lay milk.
Don't start that. Day.
Whatever. Then we could leave. I ain't even see some of y'all gonna be in the same grade.
Oh.
I knew I was right.
Sweat.
Trey like swag.
The shots are pretty fit. Why not
No,
get it?
okay.
Check this out. Why? I heard that he yeah.
We can glue it anywhere on this paper.
What, the foldable? Yeah. It's the only thing going on 86.
Hold on, why am I doing this and I got nothing to keep it?
Bro.
Oh, yes, Morty.
Rick and Morty.
That show is so gay, bro.
How?
I don't know.
That's a time travel show. Like, it's like science fiction show.
Okay,
Right.
let's get through this so you can start working on your Tarsia puzzle. What you do not finish will be your homework tonight. So the longer we take, the more time you don't have to work. Okay. All right, so number one, I have the square root of x equals -2. Is my radical all by itself? Okay?
Can we trim this out?
Yes.
Bro, she just
I've
said that.
already said that.
Oh.
My bad.
Ain't no your bad.
There's too much talking going on and not enough paying attention. Okay, so I have the square root of x equals -2. Again, is my radical all by itself?
Yes.
Yes, there's nothing with it. So as soon as it's isolated, we square both sides. Now, be careful when you square both sides on this one. This is -2 times -2. Okay, so x equals +4 then. Okay, so now we need to check it. We're going to plug this in. The square root of 4 equals -2. Well, what's the square root of 4? 2. Does 2 equal -2? No. So this solution does not work.
Wait, hold on. Don't move nowhere, please.
Yeah, come on. Okay.
We call this an extraneous solution.
Extraneous.
Okay? So it's a solution when you actually solve it, but it doesn't actually work, which is why I tell you, you must go back and check your answers. Okay? You cannot just assume that what you solve for is going to work. That does not work anymore. Okay? Take a look at number 2. Is the radical all by itself?
No.
No. What is on the outside of it that we need to get rid of? -7. This 7 is not underneath the square root, so we must get rid of it first by adding to both sides. So you end up with the square root of 2x plus 5 equals, because these cancel, what's -4 plus 7? 3. Now, is my radical by itself? Yes, there's nothing on the outside of it. Don't worry about what's underneath of it right now. We just needed to get rid of everything on the outside. Once we do that, we square both sides. So we're left with 2x plus 5 equals, what's 3 squared? 9. And then the race to solve for x is on. What do we need to get rid of now to get x by itself? The 5. By doing what? Subtracting. So 2x equals 4. Finally, divide by 2. So x equals 2. Okay. On the right-hand side, we're going to check it. So let's plug it in. The square root of 2 times 2 plus 5 minus 7 should equal -4. Okay, so this is the square root of, what's 2 times 2?
4.
Plus 5 is? 9. So this is the square root of 9 minus 7 should equal -4. What's the square root of 9? 3. Minus 7 should equal -4. And what's 3 minus 7? -4. So this one is good, which means x equals 2 is a solution. All that writing.
And I ran out of space. I'm writing normal.
Oh man, I could get the
You and me both, buddy. Okay, number 3. Is my radical all by itself? Yes. So we square both sides. So we get 1 plus x squared equals, what's 5 squared? 25. Okay, I need to solve for x. So my first step is to what?
Whoa.
Get rid of the 1.
How do I get rid of the 1? Subtract. It's positive, so we have to subtract. So we get x squared equals 24.
That's all you can do.
How do I get rid of the square?
By,
Square root. Opposite of square is square root. So we get x equals the square root of 24.
Don't nobody say nothing. That's all you can do right there.
That's all you can technically do right there. That should be your answer. Okay, let's go and check and see if it works though. So we've got the square root of 1 plus the square root of 24 squared equals 5. Okay, so what happens when I square the square root of 24?
Oh, yeah.
What's the square root of 24 squared?
Square root of 24 squared.
What does square and square root do?
I can't even get it out.
Okay, hold on. Back up a second. What happens if I take 1 and I multiply it by 2? I get what? 2. And then I turn around and I divide it by 2. I get 1. Okay, it does the opposite. So what happens here is this actually becomes the square root of 1. Square root and square cancel. So this is 1 plus 24. It doesn't change the value of it.
So same thing.
So it just cancels it out.
Same difference.
Okay. So what's 1 plus 24? 25. And what's the square root of 25? 5. Does 5 equal 5?
Yes.
Yes. So x equals the square root of 24 is an answer.
Yay.
Oh my goodness.
Teamwork.
And you know I pulled the hard stops out for last.
Wow.
Oh.
Oh
my God. Oh no. Okay.
God dang, I ain't ever seen that.
I'm going to do it this way because once we get into the next unit, it'll make the next unit super easy. So, whenever you have equals some kind of a fraction, we're going to set up what we call a proportion. Okay? So, 2 over, what do I put in the bottom so the 2 doesn't change? A 1. So, this is 2 over 1 equals 8 over the square root of 5x minus 4. Notice, I didn't change anything about that equation except for sticking a 1 in the bottom, which doesn't change it because 2 divided by 1 is still 2. Okay, now we're going to do, when you have a proportion, we do something called, does anybody remember? Ends up as cross multiply. We cross multiply. So we multiply 2 times the square root of 5x minus 4. 2 times the square root of 5x minus 4 equals, when I cross multiply the other way, 1 times 8 is 8. Now it's just like, the butterfly?
Yeah.
Okay.
The butterfly method.
We're going to use the butterfly method a little bit later, too.
Can I use the
Give me 1 second to finish this one, and then you can.
Really?
Okay, so I need to get rid of everything outside of the square root first. What do I get rid of?
The 4.
The 4.
The 2.
The 2.
The 2. By doing
Square
what?
root.
Divide it. Remember, when the 2's on the outside, out front, it's being multiplied. So we divide.
Shut up.
By the way, we're probably going to run out of room, so we're going to have to move over here. So, square root of 5x minus 4 equals, what's 8 divided by 2?
It's an 8. 4.
4.
4.
Okay, is my square root by itself now?
Yeah.
Square both sides now. So, I'm going to move up here because I ran out of room. 5x minus 4 equals 16. Okay. CJ, what do I do next?
I should be prepared by the next note, by the next question.
Oh, come on, you got this. I need to get x by itself. What do I get rid of first? The 4. By doing what?
Subtract. Oh, add.
Adding. It's subtracted.
It's already subtracted. So I say add.
Okay. So I end up with 5x equals 20. Stephon, what's my last step?
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's easy.
You got this? You have 5. Hold on.
Divide.
5x equals 20. How do I get x by itself?
Divide.
If you don't get this, I'm smacking the life out of you.
Yeah, if I had said it, all right.
So x is going to equal 4.
Why you want to say it?
Oh, I thought she just wanted me to do just the 5.
Look at you, bro.
Look at you.
See, I'm on your head, bro.
I go to the bathroom now.
No.
Okay.
Nope, you got it wrong.
Last thing we have to do is check it. So 2 equals 8 divided by the square root of 5 times 4 minus 4. So we need to figure out what goes in the bottom there. What is 5 times 4?
20.
20 minus 4 is
16.
16. So this is actually 2 equals 8 divided by the square root of 16. What's the square root of 16?
4.
4. Does 2 equal 8 divided by 4? What's 8 divided by 4? 2.
Yeah, I got that.
So this is good. X equals 4 is a solution.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay. When you're done with that, it goes in on page 87.
Can I do this on somebody?
Bro, who's there?
Everybody did it.
Cuz what?
Because what?
Bro, you got some competition, bro.
That's your ugly cuz.
Am I the only person that did this?
Cuz that's your rocky cuz.
No, I'm talking about
Oh, we do this.
What was it? You got it.
Sí, señor.
I don't want
I can hear you, bro.
CJ, you want this over here or over there?
It's ugly.
Oh.
What's up?
What's up, though?
Oh, yeah.
You said over here?
Here.
Oh, yeah, you ain't saying
Think
that.
he's
You
getting
was
me
getting
cold?
He was getting them.
That's my ex for you.
Oh,
I'm allergic to homework.
you're allergic to homework.
I understand. I gotta take
I-
it.
I-
I started.
Yeah, but I can't even deal with y'all, bro.
Get you down.
That sucks.
He said he wanted me.
I gotta take it
I do, I
fine.
do it anyway.
That's gonna be my head, shoulders, and knees and toes.
Head, shoulders, and knees and toes.
I ain't get one.
I always miss you up here.
Yeah, I'm
Forgot I
good.
have
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, it's these again. Oh, these easy, right?
Okay. This is your Tarsia puzzle. This is your homework for this evening.
I'll take it.
You have plenty of time to get started in class.
Yeah.
Okay? When you are finished. And I promise you, I even double checked. This is what it's going to look like. It's going to kind of look like a football type looking thing.
Hey, Carolina
That is a
Panthers.
bad
Hey,
football.
listen. Hey.
That's a lemon.
It's a lemon. Okay? A lemon, a football, whatever you want to call it. Okay? You have the entire rest of the period to work on this.
What is?
Are you going to fix my football?